The math that governed your parents' lives is not just outdated, it is a financial corpse. In 1992, a family could secure a foundational home for $85,000. Today, that same structure demands $420,000. While prices have quadrupled, your purchasing power has been surgically castrated by a system that demands you run twice as fast just to stay in the same place. You have been fed a diet of decorative lies: save 10%, skip your morning coffee, and build a modest budget. This is not financial strategy, it is a sedative designed to keep the masses compliant while the floor collapses beneath them. You cannot budget your way out of a structural execution. The game board was burned a decade ago, and if you are still playing by the rules of the 20th century, you aren't a player. You are the liquidity for those who actually own the board. The Matrix wants you average because average is profitable. We are here to dismantle that illusion. This is the blueprint to surviving a decade designed to bankrupt the middle class. 1. The housing trap, a masterclass in financial servitude. Let's begin where the system reveals its teeth: real estate. The median home price in the United States currently hovers around $400,000. In high productivity hubs, the only places where real career trajectory exists, that number is merely the entry fee for a starter home. We aren't discussing an estate, we are talking about 3 bedrooms and a garage in a zip code where the schools are barely functional. The data is damning. The 1% looks at these numbers and sees a market in transition, but for the average seeker, it is a fortress. Before the 2020 pandemic, 50% of the market was accessible to middle-income buyers. Today, that has been throttled to 21%. The American dream has been downsized by nearly 60% in half a decade. When mortgage rates surged from 3% in 2021 to over 7% by 2023, the trap was set. Even as we move through 2026, economists agree, do not expect the relief of sub-6% rates. On a standard $400,000 asset, your monthly tribute to the bank is over $1,000 higher than it was just 4 years ago. What is the average response? They stretch, they commit 45% of their gross income to a mortgage, praying for a refinance cycle that may never come. They become prisoners of the zip code. You are not building an empire when half your life force is drained by a mortgage payment. You are one medical emergency or one corporate restructuring away from a foreclosure notice. The elite don't stretch for shelter, they hedge their living costs. 2. The depreciation. Suicide, the $700 monthly leech. If housing is the trap, your driveway is the execution chamber. The average new car payment in America has crossed the $700 threshold. For trucks, you are looking at $1,200 a month. Run the math with the cold precision of a Wall Street analyst. Over a 7-year loan term, you will pay $130,000 for a machine that will be worth $15,000 the moment the title is clear. This is not transportation, this is financial self-destruction. The crowd does it because normal dictates a new car every 5 years, but normal is currently drowning. To live a comfortable middle-class existence in 2026, a single American requires an income exceeding $100,000. For a family of 5, that survival number jumps to $280,000. These aren't luxury figures. These are the costs of rent, groceries, and insurance. You can afford to be perceived as successful, or you can actually be successful. You cannot afford both. 3. The first $100,000. The lost decade. Everyone wants the secret code to the S&P 500 or the next Silicon Valley unicorn, but they ignore the brutal physics of the first $100,000. If you invest $500 a month at an 8% return, it will take you 10 years and 8 months to hit that 6-figure milestone. This is a lost decade. During this phase, compound interest is not your partner, it is a ghost. You are doing 100% of the heavy lifting. You are pushing a boulder up a mountain in the dark, and every social media post you see makes the summit look further away. This is where the average quit. They see the slow progress and decide to buy a vacation or a luxury watch instead. They choose the dopamine of the present over the sovereignty of the future. 4. The $20,000 threshold, the shift from survival to power. However, there is a hidden milestone that matters more than the $100,000 mark, the $20,000 buffer. Until you have $20,000 in liquid capital, you are a slave to luck. A transmission failure is a crisis. A medical bill is a catastrophe. You make decisions based on fear. You stay in a toxic job because you cannot afford a 14-day gap in paychecks. You are easy to manipulate because you are desperate. Once you cross 20,000, the atmosphere changes. That same car repair is no longer a disaster. It is a minor annoyance. This is the psychological pivot from survival mode to growth mode. For the first time, you have walking away money. You can negotiate your salary with the cold indifference of someone who doesn't need the yes. You start making decisions based on opportunity. 5. Stop the hemorrhage, the order of operations. The masses try to build wealth while bleeding from the neck. If you are putting money into an index fund hoping for an 8% return while carrying credit card debt at 22%, you are actively losing 14% of your net worth every year. You are watering a plant while the house is on fire. The rule of the 1%, pay off high-interest debt with the ferocity of a hunter. A 22% guaranteed return, by avoiding interest, is a better investment than anything Warren Buffett has touched in a decade. The only exception is the employer match. If your firm offers a match on retirement contributions, that is a 100% immediate return. Take it. Every dollar beyond that must be weaponized against your debt until the bleeding stops. 6. The humiliation phase. Trading pride for equity. This is the part that will make you uncomfortable. To escape the gravity of the middle class, you must stop pretending you can afford your current life. The math is broken. Your rent is 40% of your income. Your grocery bill has doubled. To fix this, you must do what the average won't, accept the humiliation phase, get a roommate. If you are 35 and living with a peer, the normal world will pity you. Let them. Splitting a $2,000 rent saves you $12,000 a year. Invested at 8% over 20 years, that embarrassment becomes nearly $300,000. You are trading your ego for $350,000. Drive a paid-off 6-year-old sedan. A $12,000 Honda Civic performs the same utility as a $60,000 Raptor. The difference is $48,000 plus a decade of compound interest. Your coworkers will judge you. Your family will whisper that you're struggling. Let them drown in their car payments while you build an empire in silence. 7. The inversion of gravity. The first 100,000 takes 10 years, the second takes 5, the third takes 4. By the time you reach $500,000, the machine is adding $100,000 to your net worth every 24 months, without you adding a single penny. This is the moment gravity flips. Money stops flowing away from you and begins rushing towards you, but you must survive the slog phase first. Success in 2026 is not about a flashy lifestyle. It is about sovereignty. It is the ability to say no to a soul-crushing job. It is knowing that if the economy collapsed tomorrow, you would be fine for a year. That is wealth. Everything else is just expensive decoration. The system is designed to extract maximum profit from your anxiety. Every advertisement and every social media algorithm is calibrated to keep you on the treadmill. The bank wins when you stretch. The dealership wins when you sign. The matrix wins when you comply. But they cannot take your ability to say no. They cannot stop the man or woman who is willing to look poor for a decade to be wealthy for a lifetime. As for those of you still watching, here is the final hard truth. Your salary is a tool, not a trophy. Most people use their raises to upgrade their prison cells, bigger houses, faster cars, more expensive shackles. The 1% uses their raises to buy back their time. If your lifestyle expands at the same rate as your income, you are not successful. You are just a high-status slave. If you are ready to stop playing their game and start playing ours, let us know you've decoded the message. Comment the secret password, I am awake. This tells us you are no longer part of the herd. You are now part of the visionaries. The psychological battle is won. Now it is time for the tactical execution. If you want the exact step-by-step breakdown of where every dollar should go once the bleeding stops, click the video on the screen now. We will see you in the next phase.